I made this pair of overalls a few months ago from a bunch of my grandma's old tea towels. My sister said that she really liked them and that she wanted a pair, and I have a bunch of my grandma's old tablecloths, so we're gonna make her some. So I'm gonna use these to trace, but I made these by tracing a pair of pants, so I'll show you how to do it that way, because I feel like it's more likely that you have a pair of pants that you like the fit of than you already have overalls. To do that, we're going to trace this pair of pants and then essentially just add a trapezoid for the top bib part and then straps. So we'll need to cut out 4 pieces, 2 for the front 2 panels, 2 for the back 2 panels. So I'm gonna take a pair of pants and fold them in half. Basically, this shape is what we'll trace for the back panel. You need to make sure that you have the crotch pulled all the way out. It sort of loops under so that it can fit your butt. And so you need to make sure you have it pulled all the way out so you get the full shape of the pants. You also want to make sure if there is elastic in places like the waistband and the bottom that you are stretching out that elastic whenever you're tracing it, because if it's just laying flat and you cut it like this, it's going to be too small. Whereas if you pull the elastic, you see the actual shape of the piece of fabric. So you want to lay the pants down on the fabric, and again, think about or mark where it is fully extended in both of the parts with elastic, and then just trace this going about 1/4 of an inch away from where the pants actually lie. So I have one of my back panels cut out. You can see that I added seam allowance here. I also didn't follow this exactly. I wish these were a little bit longer for me, and my sister's even taller than me, so I added some space here. And so if the pants or whatever you're tracing aren't the exact fit that you want, just try to think through what you need to change about it. You need this same basic shape for it to fit like around your crotch, but if you want them to be a little bit wider leg, then just add some space on the sides, if that makes sense. We just cut out one of the back panels. Now to cut out the other back panel, I'm going to flip the piece that we just cut over and trace the inverse of it. Since they're for the different legs, they need to mirror each other instead of being the same shape. Okay, now we're going to do the front 2 panels. So we're going to take the pants and fold them the other way so that the front is facing us. And then again, get it laying flat so that you can see the full seam lines of where the front panel should be. Do the same thing with tracing it. I laid the pieces that I cut out for the back right next to it so I can see the length that I need for where I need to put the waistband to match up to the waistband up here. Do the same thing with tracing it up until we get to the top where we have to add the bib part. And to do that, I'm gonna look at where these pants usually hit on me, which is right at my belly button. And then I want my overalls to end maybe right here. I'll look at how long that is, which is about 11 inches for me. And so whenever we get to the waistband part, obviously, like I mentioned before, make sure it is stretched out to get the full length of the piece of fabric. And then I'm just going to continue, after I hit the waistband here, continue up 11 inches. And then just go straight across and then straight back down to here. And then we'll shape that extra fabric later into the actual shape you want for the bibs. Okay, so after I cut out the first panel for the front, I did the same thing and flipped it over and traced it out on the other fabric. Now we're going to start sewing them together. So with the right side of the fabric together, AKA the bright side of the fabric that you want facing out, those are facing each other. We're going to sew from the crotch up to the top of the bibs on the front pair, and then on the 2 pieces for the back, from the crotch up to where the waistband will be. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm sewing them together with a straight stitch and then pseudo serging the ends so that they don't fray. I have a video on pseudo serging. It's in my beginner sewing playlist, or I can tag you in it if you want. Definitely make sure you're starting with the crotch and sewing towards the waistband or towards the top of the bibs. The crotch is the more crucial point where you want to make sure it lines up. Whereas if the waistband is a little bit wonky, you can just hem it to hide that. It's harder to do that. It's harder to fix the crotch. Okay, so now we have the back of a pair of pants and the front. And now we sew them together. I have the 2 seams that we are going to match up exactly. And then I'm going to sew from the crotch down one leg and then from the crotch down the other. You obviously could do it going up one leg and just down all in one motion. But like I mentioned before, you really want to make sure that the crotches are matched up. So to me, it's easier and safer to do it this way. Now the inside around the crotch is sewn together. Now we will do the outside as well. We're going to start this at the ankle and work our way up. You can see that one of my pant legs is a little bit longer than the other. This isn't a big deal because we're going to be hemming this anyway, but you want to start down here so that you can make sure it's even, instead of if you started at the top and then somehow ended up with it like this at the bottom and not even. Okay, we're starting to have semblance of overalls. Next is adding elastic for the back. I'm gonna take a piece of thicker elastic, and about where the overalls hit, I'm going to see how long the elastic needs to be to fit the whole way across. I don't want these to be tight by any means. It just needs to have the elastic in it to hug to my body so you can't see down the back of them. Once I have the length of across my back, I'm going to cut that out. On the first pair of overalls that I made, I cut out a separate piece of fabric that I encased the elastic in, and then I sewed that on. So for these, this is the back panel, this is the front. As you can see, my back comes up a little bit higher than the front, so we're going to use that to our advantage. I have this not sewn all the way up because after we finish the elastic, I'm going to want to hem that. And if it was sewn all the way up, this bit wouldn't be able to be hemmed. So right now that's not sewn all the way up. I'm going to take the elastic and pin it towards the top. And essentially we're going to sew it across the top so that we can fold it down like this. And I want to get it positioned in a way that whenever we fold it down, there's as little of this as possible. So I'm going to move it down a bit. Okay, so this placement looks perfect because once I hem this, that'll be nice and smooth. I'm going to do a similar thing on the other side over here. So I am seam ripping that side seam a little bit so that I'll be able to hem the front bibs. And then making sure the elastic is not twisted from where it's pinned on the other side. I'm gonna figure out where to pin it over here as well. Now that I have both of these points pinned, I'm going to evenly distribute the elastic through the rest of the fabric. So I'm going to fold this in half and find the middle point of the elastic. And then I'll go ahead and pin that at the middle point of the pants, which is where the two panels meet. So now with these 3 points pinned, I can do the same thing where I fold it in half at these 2 pins, find the middle of this elastic, find the middle of the fabric, and pin the 2 of those together. Now I'm going to sew across the top of the elastic, holding at the pinpoints and pulling so that the elastic is fully stretched as I'm sewing. Since I'm sewing through elastic, I use a zigzag stitch, and this is what we're looking like. I'm going to trim the excess above it. So now it's like this, and then I'm going to flip it down. After flipping it over, I sewed it down on the side and then across the bottom as well. And again, pulling the elastic to put tension on it so that it is the same length as the fabric as I sew. So then when there's no tension on it, it pulls the fabric into the size that we want. Okay, now we're gonna figure out what we wanna do with the shape of the front. I'm just folding it like a basic hem. Actually, I'm gonna do a double rolled hem since this frays pretty easily, and see if that's like the shape that I want or if I need to trim it a little bit more. Sister has big knockers, so I feel like it needs to be a little bit bigger than what I would wear it as, so she can fit those knockers in there. Okay, I feel like that should be fine. So I think I'm just gonna double roll and hem the whole front portion here. Okay, for the straps, I cut out 4 strips of fabric. They're all about 4 inches wide, and then 2 of them are 34 inches long. 2 of them are 54 inches long, since the back is lower than where the front is. I put them right sides together and sewed down the side. I'm gonna put a safety pin on one end of it, which I can then push through to turn it right side out. Once they're turned right sides out, I sewed them, the 2 shorter ones on the front of the bib, the 2 longer ones on the back. Now we're gonna add a little bit of elastic to the ankles. So I'm going to fold these up and sew along this circle almost all of the way. I'm gonna leave open a gap that we'll be able to feed elastic through. Then I'm gonna take some thinner elastic and see how much I need for it to fit around my ankle. I don't want it to be tight at all, but just hugged in a little bit. So here's the pant bottom. You can see that it's sewn about 1/2 inch away from the edge of the fabric, and it's all the way around except for right here. So I have my elastic on a safety pin, and I'm putting my safety pin through that hole and fishing it all the way around. Once both tails of the elastic are back through the hole, we're gonna take off the safety pin, overlap the elastic, and sew them together. And then redistribute it in the channel and sew the channel closed. And just like that, we have some cute, comfy overalls.